Welcome to the Horsemouth Podcast. It's my excuse to meet fascinating people and learn how they approach work, productivity, and problem solving. My guest today is a professor at the Academy of Scientific and Innovative Research and the former chief scientist and head of the Environmental Materials Division at the National Environmental Engineering Research Institute, NEERI. For over 2 decades, she led research related to materials and catalysis in energy and environmental technologies. She handled several industrial projects funded by national and multinational groups, supervised more than 45 PhD students, and worked closely with collaborators from countries like UK, Japan, US, Korea, and Australia. She has more than 35 patents, 180 international publications, and an estimated 10,000 citations to her credit. In 2018, her team invented green firecrackers, which cause minimal emissions of particulate matter and gases. These quote-unquote eco-friendly firecrackers are produced by over 1,200 licensed manufacturers today and have become a staple of the Indian fireworks industry. For her contribution to science and technology, she has been bestowed such prestigious honors as the Vasvik Award, the ChemCon Award, and the CSIR Technology Award. Last year, she was invited to the President's House for the at-home reception on 15th August. Presently, she works as an advisor and technical expert for various government agencies and industries and serves as an honorary adjunct professor at the Lakshminarayan Innovation Technological University. This morning, however, in what I can only justify as an experiment gone horribly wrong, this personality has agreed to be on my podcast. I am honored to be in her presence today and can't wait to pick her gifted mind on all things research, science, and creativity. So now, without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Dr. Sadhna Railu. You prefer Dr. Sadhna or Dr. Railu or
Sadhna? Dr. Sadhna is better.
Dr. Sadhna is
you
better.
can drop the doctor also.
No, not at all.
So thanks a lot for a very nice introduction. I really liked the way you have introduced a topic which is very sacred to me, and that is green firecrackers.
Green firecrackers, of course.
You introduced it very well. So
it
thank you
is,
so much.
I think, one of the highlights of your career, of course. It's one of the bigger achievements and your bigger contribution to India, of course. Mm-hmm. So, ma'am, actually, I wanted to start this conversation with a little confession. Mm-hmm. I was absolutely horrible in chemistry back in 11th and 12th.
Okay.
This conversation, if anything, is my attempt at atonement for the sins of my past. So I did not like chemistry at all growing up, especially in after my matriculation and everything.
Okay.
So I wanted to start this conversation by asking you, why did you dedicate your life to chemistry, and why do you think it is such a beautiful subject?
That's a very nice question. First and foremost, you shouldn't be feeling bad about it, that you didn't like chemistry, because the story was the same in my family as well. My son was never a great fan of chemistry. But yeah, coming back to your question as to what prompted me to choose my career in chemistry. Well, to be honest, today maybe I've reached a little bit somewhere in my career, but I really wanted to be a doctor by profession. So obviously my interest was inclined more towards biology. I tried my best, but I didn't get an opportunity to take up that noble profession. So obviously I wanted the doctor to be there with my
one
name.
Way or the other.
Yeah, one way or the other. Then I decided which subject to choose. So I think from the beginning I liked chemistry more than biology. But because I was interested in going for a medical profession, obviously I gave more emphasis to biology. Chemistry, why? Because I think it's an integral part of everything, right from whether it is from cooking or what, most of the industries, if you see the chemical industries or the industries which are very intricately associated with our life, especially day-to-day life, they have there a lot of chemistry and chemical engineering is involved. And it used to fascinate me as a kid to understand what is the chemistry behind this. Sometimes when we used to put the acid which we are using in this thing, it used to blow up, So then I used to think what's happening, what chemistry is happening. That that interest sparked in me.
So this was when you were a kid?
Yeah. I realized the fireworks, for that matter, when we were playing, I used to observe the color and used to keep thinking why it's getting colored. We didn't put any, at that point of time, we didn't put any color in this. Why is this color coming and how it is coming? And then I started reading, and then I realized that I have interest in chemistry. So obviously that's why I took in for graduation, post-graduation and my doctorate as well in chemistry.
Speaking of chemistry, your expertise, I don't know, I could be wrong about this, but one word that comes up synonymously with your career is functional materials.
Right.
So can you explain to me what functional materials are and why you chose to, even specific within chemistry, you chose to be
functional materials?
Yeah.
So now coming back to your original confession of not being a chemist, is very incorrect. I think there is a chemist in you, because you caught the right word.
Okay.
Of functional materials, which I believe had a pivotal role to play as far as my career is concerned. Let's talk about materials. When we talk about materials, there are all kinds, like zeolites, carbon, so on and so forth. But when we look into issues, there are multidisciplinary issues. And then we realized that it's not possible to keep on developing materials for each and every application. Okay. So then I thought, if I have a database of materials, let's say activated carbon, which is a very common thing we all know, then zeolites हो गए, बहुत सारे जो commonly available materials हैं. So if you take those materials and put in for different issues, then obviously it's not possible. Like if I have to remove arsenic, I require one kind of material. If I have to capture CO2 from flue gas, I require another material. So I was wondering, do I keep on synthesizing different kind of material for different kind of applications? Obviously it's not possible. So then this concept, way back, I think 2 decades back, this concept picked up of designing the materials for a targeted application. Okay. So that is, you are improving the functionality of a material for targeted application. So I'll give you a very simple example, like zeolites. If we say they are basically hydrated aluminosilicate materials, and putting it in a very common language, it's very it's highly hydrophilic, meaning that it can take up a lot of water. So if I thought, okay, if we have to use this material for CO2 capture, which is a problem of global significance, which we all understand, and we started with this work at least 2 decades back. So if I put zeolites for CO2 capture, it has a very high affinity for water, so it will take up water instead of CO2. Now, do I synthesize a material, I'm talking about 2 decades back, okay? Do I synthesize a material which can repel water and take up CO2, or can I do something with this material only? I thought, okay, let me try my chemistry, let me try my knowledge of molecules to see how I can use the same material and tailor its property so that it has affinity only for CO2, even in the presence of water. Now, if I had to do that, CO2 is an acidic molecule. If I introduce a basic molecule onto the zeolite, then it will selectively pick up CO2. So this is what is functional material. We are tailoring the properties of the material by using our knowledge of chemistry and molecules for a targeted application. So this is how the birth of functional materials for targeted applications, which could be anything. It could be capturing CO2 from flue gases, or it could be targeting any specific pollutant like arsenic, fluoride, so on and so forth from water emerged.
Like for example, your work on defluoridization of water.
Exactly. Okay, I have worked a lot on defluoridation, disinfection. So if you see, the basic materials were the same, whether it was a metal oxide, any metal oxide for that matter. But if I have to go for arsenic, I have to include iron into it so that it becomes very selective towards arsenic. If I have to go for fluoride, I will introduce metals like lanthanum or calcium, which has a very high affinity for fluoride. So the basic material could be the same, but we can functionalize it or
Customize
tailor
it.
it. Customize it. Putting it in a colloquial language, we can customize it in such a way that it can be put in for different applications.
Ma'am, now let's talk about, we can take any example that you like, and let's break it down piece by piece as to what goes into creating that idea, from the seed of the idea to the point where it is patented and then put on outside. So we'll try to break it down on our show today.
Okay.
So let's start with the germination of the idea. I think, is that a fair place to begin?
I think it's a very nice question. To answer that, I think necessity is the birth of invention. I know it's a very, very old quote, but I think it holds very true as far as the journey of any scientist is concerned. Why I'm saying that? I'll give a very quick and short example of that. This fireworks thing which you had mentioned in the beginning, I started doing it at the fag end of my career. And why did we do it? Fireworks have a lot of emission issues, which I'm sure all of us know. As kids, we have been witnessing the display or the use of fireworks. So there was a ban put by the Apex Code on the usage of fireworks in our country, meaning that no fireworks are to be used. Okay, so obviously it had a lot of repercussions on the fireworks industry, which according to book value is somewhere around 6,000 to 7,000 crore, but I'm sure it's much higher than that, and it was affecting the livelihood of more than 5 lakh people. Okay?
You said that banning is not the solution.
Absolutely. So it was definitely affecting them. So at that point of time, Dr. Harshvardhan was the Minister of Science and Technology, as well as he was taking care of the environment portfolio also. He challenged the scientists of CSIR to find a solution to this problem, because he believed, and I also personally strongly believe, that banning is not the solution to a problem. Okay, he challenged and he said, find a solution to the problem. So that was the necessity that prompted us in this direction of thinking what can be done so that the problem which was associated with the industry could be resolved. So that was the germination of the seed as far as development of green firecracker or eco-friendly firecracker was concerned. And then, that laid the basis or the foundation for us to undertake that work. And then we started thinking, because very honestly, I'll say we were not into this field of pyrotechnic formulations, which is essentially associated with the fireworks. But yes, as a chemist, we knew what is being used in the fireworks. And we were basically thinking that what can be done so that the toxicity issues which are associated with it could be resolved. Can we completely replace some of the fuel, some of the oxidizers or the fuels which would make it toxic, but then it would have been a long term, because you have to develop,
cost effective also.
Yeah, we have to do a lot of development, and what we needed was a very short term solution, because there was a total ban on the industry which was affecting them very badly. Then I thought, okay, I am a material scientist, so let me think back and see what I can do by using some of the materials or the knowledge of materials which I am having. And then this idea or this concept of using functional materials in firework clicked to me, and that was the basis of the invention. It started with the idea of using the materials, the functional materials, to control the pollution which is happening from the fireworks, basically to reduce the emissions. Okay, what are the different type of functional materials which can be put into use was the whole idea around which I was thinking, and then I started working on it. We slowly went ahead to tailor things, how I can reduce SO2, which is coming, how I can reduce NOx, sulfur dioxide, how I can reduce NOx, okay? Right. The major issue was with respect to particulate matter. How do I reduce the particulate matter? Because it has huge health implications. Then I started relating with respect to materials. Which are the materials which I can put in the fireworks, which will help me in reducing these pollutants, but at the same time, cost issue is there. Right. The material should be cost effective, because the fireworks industry will not touch it if it is very exorbitantly priced.
Also, were you given a timeline that you need to do this by?
Yes, that was the challenge. We were given time of 6 months. And we started, I think, in January 2018. We started, I think you've done your homework. Okay. Okay. We started in January 2018, and we were supposed to give a solution within 5 to 6 months. Though, as I said, that time was definitely too short for us to develop any kind of new molecule which could be developed. So we were trying to develop a solution by way of using these functional materials. And then I think with the background and the knowledge which we were having, I was, I think, right in selecting the kind of materials which could go into the fireworks without compromising with the functional properties of the fireworks, because that's important.
At the end of the day, it should look like a firework.
Exactly. Now वो बोलते हैं ना हम लोग के इधर में बहुत commonly used word है, अगर हम लोग लड़ी जला रहे हैं या बॉम्ब जला रहे हैं और वो फटता नहीं है, तो I don't want to use that word, but it's called fusky bomb. I didn't want that to happen. या अगर हम लोग flower pot use कर रहे हैं तो वो burst हो गया. I didn't want those things to happen. So all these characteristics had to be taken. कि हाँ, मतलब अगर मैं मटेरियल यूज करती हूँ तो इट शुड नॉट लैंड अप विद दैट फुस्की बॉम्ब, नीदर इट शुड बी लीड टू एनी काइंड ऑफ ब्लास्ट विच वुड बी वेरी हार्मफुल फॉर द चिल्ड्रन. वो तो फंक्शनल परफॉर्मेंस था. एंड एडेड टू दैट आई हैड टू टारगेट रिडक्शन इन पार्टिकुलेट मैटर SO2 and NO2, which was the call of the day by the Apex Court. Okay, if they would have considered only, we would have given all these things. And then, of course, the story is that we were successful in identifying those materials, putting those materials into use. So it started with the concept. We established a proof of concept, which was very, very new to the industry. And they wouldn't do anything if there are very major changes. It's MSME basically. So they wouldn't adopt or accept anything which would bring in a lot of changes to the existing machinery or the existing system. So that also we had to keep in mind. Cost, we had to keep in mind. Functional properties, we had to keep in mind. Reduction in pollution, we had to keep in mind. You can understand.
So ma'am, you're talking about the restrictions.
Restrictions. But that helped me in identifying and designing the materials accordingly. And in that context, we were successful. We could identify or develop those materials, put them into use, which was helpful in addressing all the issues which I have mentioned. So I think that is what that was the invention as far as green firecracker is concerned. And this is one short example of how a problem germinated, how we tried addressing it with a very, very sound scientific background and knowledge of functional materials, application of functional materials, and how we were successful in reducing the emissions, which is what led to nearly 5 patents on this within a very short period. Then based on all the findings which we're having, we filed affidavit to the court, and I'm very happy to share with you that based on that affidavit, a landmark judgment was given by the Apex Court wherein the ban was lifted, and now the manufacturers can make firecrackers in our country.
And PESO is now issuing licenses for that. You cannot do it without the license.
No. Our role is restricted to the compositions which can be put into use, but the final licensing or the approval for commercial production is normally given by PESO.
Also, I think if you go to the NEERI website today and you start scrolling the number of MOUs on their page, I think next to your name there are about 800, 900 MOUs. There are at least four or five pages of just MOUs with the person as Railu.
It's reached 1200 now, and I'm really happy about it. As I said, it was a landmark judgment by the Apex Court, and after that the firework manufacturers adopted those formulations, so they enter into a kind of non-disclosure agreement with us when they are using those formulations. So definitely it gives me a great sense of satisfaction, though it happened at fag end of my career, I should say, last 5 to 7 years.
But what a way to conclude it.
But this is one important thing which I want to say. When we talk about technology per se or invention per se, it cannot happen within 6 months. It was the efforts of nearly 3 decades. The knowledge which was gained, the science behind it, the knowledge of materials, it was like application of that knowledge for addressing this problem.
So ma'am, let's now break this down. So now we know the story. Let's begin with the germination of the idea, meaning that that this was a challenge that was given to you.
Yes.
In your career, I'm sure you've done a lot more so than having been challenged. I think you've done a lot of autonomous, picked up your own ideas as well.
Right.
I just want to understand what a scientist does. Okay. So let's start with that. See, you have picked up your own idea.
Yes.
Where does the inspiration come to you?
Okay, I'll tell you. Very good question again. When it comes to hydrogen, I'm sure you understand it's the call of the day today.
Yes.
As far as hydrogen is concerned, as far as carbon capture and conversion is concerned, because of the climate change issues which are there.
And that is also the purview of NEERI.
Absolutely. It's a call of the day.
Yes.
It's not only of national. Like green firecrackers could be more of national significance because that kind of ban and everything is not happening in other countries as compared to our country because they do it at community level.
Right.
So they have much better control on the situation as compared to ours. So obviously those bans and everything were not in place and it's not happening the way it happens in our country. In every nukkad and gully we are playing fireworks. Right. Okay, but coming back to your question about inspiration, how an idea comes to you, I'm blessed to be staying in NEERI, and I was taking very regular walks, So when you are walking... Early morning walks. Okay. So you should be very close to nature. That's why I'm coming to this, because it's a beautiful campus. I hope you visit NEERI sometime. You'll see it's a very, very beautiful campus, full of trees and everything. So when you are walking in the morning, obviously you're very, very focused. You don't have all those administrative and all those things going on in your mind. So when you're walking, trees ka ek bahut typical hai. We call it as photosynthesis. Okay. This is 2-decade backstory. Okay. हमने कहा चलो ठीक है बहुत सारा साइंस उस वक्त भी हम कर रहे थे. I was working on water and wastewater treatment and so on and so forth. Somehow I thought, okay, this is a natural process. This photosynthesis process is natural. Can we do something related to that in the lab? I started working in the area of CO2 conversion and hydrogen in the lab 2.5 decades.
So you were working on capture and sequestration. And
2.5 decades back.
Okay.
2 to 2.5 decades back. So, and that is how this concept of artificial photosynthesis started, wherein we were majorly designing functional materials or different type of catalysts which can convert the CO2, because obviously conversion of CO2 to sugar as it is happening in natural photosynthesis is not possible in the lab at this point of time. So we tried converting it into small molecules like formic acid, methanol, so on and so forth. But other than that, I realized that the same chemistry can be applied or used for hydrogen. That is how the seed for generation of green hydrogen germinated or started, and that was something which I started on my own, and I'm very, very passionate about that subject. To be honest, हमारा बहुत ही pathetic level था. एक छोटे-छोटे से ml में या bubbles दिखते थे, तो we used to get very excited कि देखो hydrogen आया, and GC पे जब peak confirm होता था, we used to get very excited.
This is through the electrolysis process still?
No, that was through photocatalysis process.
Okay, purely photocatalysis.
Purely photocatalysis in the sense that अगर आप material पे light shine करते हो, तो it generates hydrogen. So we designed those materials and catalyst, plasmonic catalyst and all those things. So we designed all those materials. But honestly speaking, as I said, it was just restricted to a few ml, and the reactor was also 10 ml, so on and so forth. And I'm very happy to share with you now that starting from that level of 10 ml or maximum 50 ml, which was maybe somewhere around 2005 or earlier than that, we had a project which was sponsored to us by Japan, that is Mitsui. Mitsui had sponsored, and they liked that idea of artificial photosynthesis for developing catalyst for that, for converting CO2 and generating hydrogen. So we started in that project. Very, very, very preliminary work was done over there. So from there now we have reached to a state where we can generate 14 liters per minute, which is more than sufficient for 1 kilowatt fuel cell. And now we are also scaling up for 3 kilowatt fuel cell, which is roughly 50 to 60 liter per minute. I think this journey of mine, starting from 10 ml, where we could hardly see a few bubbles, reaching this level of hydrogen generation where we can cater to retrofitment of this system for fuel cells, which could be a stationary backup or it could be for a vehicular application, so on and so forth. I think this is a very, very satisfying.
Ma'am, to give context, if you're doing say 3 kilowatt of energy, how much does it take to power a house?
Okay, in this case we are using solar energy.
Right.
Okay, so for the system to be energy positive, it definitely has to be less than 3 kilowatt. Okay, otherwise it will not be energy positive.
Right.
So the functional panels which we are using, fortunately, again I'm very happy to share with you that if we are using the solar panels which are available in the market, we may be energy neutral in the sense it won't go negative, and we're not getting the benefit of being positive, but we have designed the functional panels in such a way that the UV light and the IR or the heat which is presently not being used in the solar panels have been used by us by designing appropriate functional materials and incorporating it in the solar panel. So the positive side of it is because of this functionality which is there in the panel, we are now energy positive.
This is a hybrid technology.
Yes, it's a hybrid technology in which we have a functional panel, we have electrolysis, and we have coupled it with photocatalysis.
Solar panel. So now you have thought about this on your morning walk. There may also be an idea that will come to you working as a team.
डेफिनेटली मॉर्निंग वॉक में तो बहुत आते हैं और टीम में हम लोग के बहुत सारे इश्यूज डिस्कस होते हैं, स्पेशली जो डे टू डे लाइफ के जो प्रॉब्लम्स होते हैं. वेरी स्मॉल एग्जांपल्स अगेन.
So is there like a, before you start telling me, are there like dedicated discussion or like brainstorming sessions that happen?
Yes. You see, any reasonably good piece of work cannot happen without a good team. I am very clear about it. Okay, and recently when I superannuated, I hope I can share some pics with you. All my students across the country, some were from abroad also, they all participated in my superannuation party.
This was your PhD students?
PhD students, as well as other research students who have still kept in touch. I was always blessed with a very, very good team of students who really listened to me. We had lot of debates, debating with your guide or supervisor or mentor was not a regular thing in our days.
Exactly. Because there's a power dynamic also.
Exactly. Abhi to chalta hai, but हमारे time पे नहीं था. But I think I did encourage that in my my students, and we used to have lot of. One thing which I enjoyed in my routine as a scientist is मेरा जो 9:30 to 12:30 to 1 का slot रहता था, that was only for scientific discussions. I was never encouraging.
How many hours?
Nearly 5 hours in the morning.
Just 5 hours. So
only scientific discussions with my PhD students, with my project fellows, because I was handling multiple projects.
So you were living in the campus.
I was living in the campus.
And then you wake up, you take your morning walk.
I take my morning walk.
9:30
9:30 I report to my lab, maybe earlier also.
So did you have just one lab in your entire career, or were there multiple?
No, on this lab only.
Just one lab.
This lab only.
Okay, so you reach 9:30 and your students are already there?
Yes, my students are there, and we used to start with our discussions, and it would go up to 12:30 to 1, discussing different projects, different activities, whatever.
So how did this discussion take place? Was there like a whiteboard? Were you writing things down?
Yeah. We used to scroll down. We used to write down. Sometimes equations are required. Sometimes system designs are required, and then we used to discuss why this will not work, why that will work, and we used to have good discussions and debates on that. And believe me, some of the systems which we have designed for hydrogen are very, very indigenous in nature and very competitive as well compared to what is globally available in the market. So, we used to have very regular discussions.
So when you were having these discussions, were you the senior most person in that room?
Yes. I don't know, somehow you're asking some questions which are very, very encouraging and at the same time strange also, because I'll tell you, I became a head at a very I don't know, in my formative years, I should say, of a scientist. because there was a need for a material scientist at NIRI at that point of time. I think I became a head at the age of about 33, which normally doesn't happen. Okay, so I was leading the team from then onwards. Okay,
and this was amongst a group of men.
Yeah, group of men, of course, and a group of scientists and all my student staff. And since then I've been leading. So you're coming back to your question. I spent less of time where I was reporting to somebody. I spent more time being very independent and leading a team from a very young age.
So you were usually, is it fair to say that you could have been surrounded with a lot of yes men, like a lot of people who were just agreeing with you?
I told you now, fortunately, I was having students who wouldn't
who were challenging you.
Yeah, who wouldn't agree with some of the things. And then, of course, they would come later on and say, Madam, sorry, but हमने बोल दिया, but हमको उस वक्त ऐसे लग रहा था. मैंने कहा, how do you know you're wrong? I mean, let's test it out. Who's wrong, you or me? So obviously it was never that they were wrong every time or I was right every time. It would happen. Sometimes their suggestions probably were better, and sometimes obviously with virtue of my experience, many of the times my students, they will listen, they will accept that many of the times I was, because वो लोग आज भी मेरे superannuation में कह रहे थे कि हम जब भी आपके पास problem लेके आते थे, we had a solution to those problems. They could have worked or not worked, that's a different story, but you always gave a solution.
A chance.
And we tried, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it doesn't. That's a different story. Yeah.
So ma'am, there was one thing that you said that, we are scientists, we will keep trying.
Yeah.
I think I really like that, because it kind of like explains the breed of that kind of a person, how they think. So you must be meeting, like you just said, that you must be meeting a lot of failures, a lot of dead ends.
Definitely.
And is the process still about assuming a hypothesis and working on it?
Yes, mostly, जैसे मैंने आपको हाइड्रोजन का बताया, जो few bubbles है, बहुत ही minuscule होता है, and it was very depressing also, putting in so much of efforts and material.
So how do you deal with that failure when you are so depressed and you're like, there's no progress, nothing is happening?
Okay, one mantra I really followed is, we can do it. Okay, one thing. Okay. Negotiating challenges, capturing opportunities, and making the best of it is the order of the day. I always said this to my students, and I kept telling to myself.
Did you write it down somewhere?
Yes. So, of course, challenge part came at much later in my life, but capturing opportunities, which I said, because we started way back in hydrogen and carbon capture, which was not at peak at that point of time, but that is how, that was an opportunity which we caught at that point of time, and it's really helping me a lot now, in bagging projects, and
did you know it back then that you were doing something?
Yes, I knew it was a problem of significance, but never realized,
Because it was not 20 years ago. I don't think it was so big.
It was not at all. I don't want to sound very immodest, but if
you can,
do,
it's okay.
No. If you go through the literature and all, especially carbon capture and all, I think we pioneered some of the work in our country. Okay, definitely. As far as biomimetic CO2 sequestration is concerned, you'll see some of the publications which came from our group. We were amongst the first few in our country to have published in that. Similarly, for carbon capture, for hydrogen for that matter, hydrogen was a very, very tough journey for us. Right from designing the catalyst to designing the systems which are required, making the system foolproof, because hydrogen being light gas, वो कब हवे में उड़ जाता था पता ही नहीं चलता था, that kind of thing. Designing, जब हम लोग start किए, lamps कहाँ से मिलेंगे, system कैसे design होंगे, reactor कैसा होगा, everything, lot of thinking goes into the process.
You must be worried about the admin aspect also.
Yeah, but I never gave up. Honestly speaking, I never gave up hydrogen, and I'm still continue. We reached to this stage, just at the scale I have already told you. We started maybe with 0.2 to 0.3 ml, and now we have reached up to 3 liters per minute and all that. And I think this is was very satisfying reaching this level at the fag end of my career again,
Right.
in this case also. But yes, it was very, I never gave up, because somehow I liked that topic. I continued working. I said, okay, aaj 0.2 hai to kya hua, I will reach up to 500, I will reach up to 1 liter, I'll reach another. That's
So
how it
that
went on.
part of your life was not was it a happy part of your life, or was it a satisfying part? Because I feel there's a difference between being challenged, being unsatisfied.
मुझे पता, that's a good question. Let me think over it now. How I used to feel. Of course, कभी कभी तो डिप्रेशन लगता है कि you are expecting certain results, you are designing systems and materials with certain expectations. It doesn't come to that level, तो definitely depression तो भी लगता है. Because I was in that age when I was handling that work, लगता है depression. But then I always, maybe I'm a fighter. I never gave up. I never gave up that work, and I feel good about it now that I never gave, because लगता है बहुत लोग अरे कुछ नहीं होना है इसमें, कुछ नहीं करना है, what you'll get some good publication which we got. कुछ टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं आनी है, कुछ पेटेंट नहीं आनी है. Sometimes we get lot of pressure.
Like the environment was also very depressing.
Yeah. And होता है, कुछ नहीं हो सकता है, ऐसा नहीं, क्योंकि टफ है ये एरिया, ये है वो है, whatever it is. But we should continue doing it, continue applying, and we learn a lot from a negative experience. This is one thing I always tell my students, and whosoever is pursuing rich, we learn a lot from our negative results, you know. And you should be honest to publish it. At least somebody else will not waste their time on that. I keep telling, but unfortunately हमारा सिस्टम ऐसा है कि कोई भी अच्छा डेवलपमेंट बहुत जल्दी पब्लिश होता है. But if I want to publish something which is negative with the intent of helping the scientific community that they don't repeat the same mistakes, they don't do the same experiments which has already been done, somehow is not received well, और उतना वेटेज नहीं मिलता है against a very, I don't blame them. Journals को भी चाहिए कि वो बहुत impact, positive impact और high impact वाली publications ले. But then to some extent I started using those negative results in my, because dedicatedly negative वाले तो कोई नहीं publish करना है, तो हमने कहा चलो ठीक है, इसके कुछ results तो इसमें जाने चाहिए, so that at least these experiments on which I have spent my time, and I won't say wasted, I have spent my time, should come to the knowledge of the people, so that they don't repeat the same things.
Even if it is via the success.
Absolutely. So publications में I always try to start with where I was.
Where I failed.
where वो उसको positive way में लिखते हैं कि where I was.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So now all this scientific discussion is happening till 1. Then you break for lunch, whatever.
Yeah.
Then what happens after that?
After that हम लोग के देखो जॉब जब आप एक पोजीशन में रहते हो तो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज तो रहती है. दो आई डिड नॉट एंजॉय देन आई डोंट एंजॉय मच, बट वो रहती है एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज.
So when did the actual experimentation or all of that happen?
Okay, we used to have discussions, and then my students were going to the lab, and then obviously they would do the experiments. So from, let's say we had a lunch break about half an hour or so then we would come back and settle down and resume our work again by 2:15, 2:30. So I would do roughly from 2:15 to 2:30 I would go in for my administrative things which I have to do by virtue of my portfolio. Then after that I would visit labs. I normally go to each and every lab, each and experiment which is happening, because ऐसे नहीं होता है जो हमने बोला है exactly वो लोग relate कर गए और exactly वैसे experiments हो रहे, we can't take it for granted like that. So we go and the students also feel morally good and enthused. उनके कोई problems हो तो they also get addressed, and
like the senior doctor coming for a round in a hospital.
Exactly. That I would do from maybe around 3:30 I would start, and it would go up. Sometimes discussions लंबे हो जाते थे तो 7:30. So it used to.
But your routine was fixed in that sense कि so.
Absolutely, I followed it very strictly.
There were never any late nights.
तो late हाँ तो जैसे कह रहे वो to spill over to 7:30. मेरे तो most of my students, I don't know whether whatever the reason, most of them were staying late in the night. Because तभी हम लोग को मतलब अगर हम 2 decade बहुत पीसफुल उनको भी लगता था कि पीसफुली पूरा एनालिसिस, डेटा एनालिसिस करना, कंपाइलेशन करना, लिखना जो है, it's possible more peacefully in the evening.
So like latest कितना हो जाता था? मतलब by what time would be maximum that they would leave home?
They would go, some people would take a break for an hour or so.
For dinner.
Or maybe, for dinner. Like 6:30, 7 ko they would take a break and then come back again and stay till 10:30 in the night. All my PhD students or research students. I normally was closing my office by 7:30. Normally by 7:30, and I was not coming back. Then they were continuing. Yeah.
So when did you find yourself to be most productive during the day?
Productive wise, of course, it was the first half. The most enjoyable part was also the first half.
The discussions.
And that was a very, very strict instructions to my staff, which was handling staff in the sense, I mean, the administrative staff, the scientists, not to disturb during that period, believe me, and it was the instructions to my family also. That is the time when I'm very focused and involved in that. So unless there is an emergency, the emergency number was only of my mom. I told her, irrespective of where I'm sitting, whether I'm sitting at a scientific discussion or I'm sitting with a minister or a director, you can call me at any point of the day. So those were two, of course, and obviously my son was going to school and all that. So I would pick up his phone.
So
other than that,
immediate emergencies.
Yeah, emergencies. Otherwise, I normally never entertained any phone calls also during that period.
So ma'am, in this zone, I want to understand that, like, you know how sometimes artists describe this creative flow that happens, where often they describe it as a feeling where, you know, their conscious is not in control, their subconscious is doing a lot of things. Did you, as a scientist, ever experience that kind of a state of flow where, like, you're in total concentration, things are happening naturally, your brain is working on its own?
It happens, you know. I don't know. Sometimes I think I found some solutions even while I was sleeping. You know, those problems are continuing in your mind. Maybe you're thinking while lying down it is more peaceful or something. It continues. It never stops. You know, suppose if you've made some kind of failure and that thing is bothering you, it's going on in your mind, and suddenly you find a solution, you jump out of the bed. Oh,
like a eureka moment.
Yes, you got something.
So this would happen at night?
I had a pad right next to my bed and I used to scroll down. Abhi to ye aa gaya, bahut handy hai. Mobiles are very handy now. So the moment something comes to my mind, and you believe me, my students will vouch for it. They used to get, abhi to mobile pe unko 2 baje message aa raha, 2:30 baje, अरे madam 2 baje raat ko kya kar rahe? It was not that I'm awake at 2 o'clock.
So basically, if you got an idea, you would text it to your student.
Yeah, text it. Yeah, let's try this. Let's do this.
Ma'am, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of musicians also do the same thing.
Is it?
Yeah, like a lot of musicians will get the idea of a song and they'll wake up in the middle of the night and they'll message their manager or their
Actually, मुझे लगता है subconscious में चलता रहता है. I don't know what it is, because I think we sleep at the right time and everything, but it happens, you know, sometimes. I think I did get some good ideas, or maybe it is more because you're totally relaxed and then you're thinking.
Your subconscious is working.
Yeah, something like that.
When you have so many things going on in your brain, and I think it's safe to say that you have a gifted mind in that sense, that you must be making sense, trying to make sense of a lot of things simultaneously, multitasking in that sense.
We have to be.
So, what advice would you have for me to try and, because I'm completely bothered by my thoughts. Sometimes I can't sleep at night because of, you know, the random thoughts. Sometimes it's anxiety and all of that.
Yeah.
How do you make sense of these things?
Actually, I have always oriented or maybe focused. Like I said, subconsciously it is happening. So, sometimes I also have those sleepless nights, and then my husband is a very keen observer. जिस दिन मैं नहीं सोया, जिस दिन मैं सोई नहीं 2:30 बजे या 3 बज गए और नींद नहीं लग रही है, which experiment failed today?
Right.
Okay, and now he will tell, आज किसका कॉल आया, किसका किस फायरवर्क इंडस्ट्री का कॉल आया, किस फैब्रिकेटर का कॉल आया, ये प्रॉब्लम स्टक अप हो गया. If you analyze that, you can relate it to that problem. बोलते ना एक sometimes we are not able to analyze why it is happening, but a person
observer,
a person, then he always tells me, he comes up with that, you know, that's bothering you.
Right.
And that's why you're not able to sleep. So I would suggest that you have to analyze what is bothering you and speak to yourself, talk to yourself ki, no, there's a solution to this. And once you find a probable solution to that, probably you'll go off to sleep. That happens with me. So that's
you would write it down, then you would think that, okay, I'll attack this tomorrow.
अच्छा, मुझे वही लगता था. अभी मैं आपसे बात कर रही हूँ तो मुझे जब वो लगता था ये स्लीपलेस सिंड्रोम वाला जो इशू है, जब शायद कुछ मुझे मिल जाता था कि भाई अभी ऐसा है कि एवरीथिंग इज नॉट रोज ऑफ बेटा, वो अप्स एंड डाउन्स सबके लाइफ में आते हैं, नॉट ओनली विद रिस्पेक्ट टू साइंस, विद रिस्पेक्ट टू हैंडलिंग इंडस्ट्री, विद रिस्पेक्ट टू लॉट ऑफ इश्यूज वी हैव, लाइक हैंडलिंग साइंटिस्ट, देयर परसेप्शन. कोई ऐसा जैसे आप कह रहे स्टूडेंट्स, तो इवन साइंटिस्ट भी चैलेंज कर सकते हैं, नहीं मैडम ऐसे नहीं होता है, दिस इज द लाइन ऑफ नाउ इफ आई हैव टू काउंटर दैट, lot of thinking process is there and all those things.
You have to control your ego also.
Absolutely. So ये सब चीज़ों का ये शायद साइड इफेक्ट है कि आपको even I have problems कि.
So ma'am, when you were having these disagreements with your fellows or maybe your seniors, and they are also in their own way, they are gifted people or whatever.
Absolutely.
How many times would you have to take your own stand, and how many times would you have to pull back and say, okay, fine, you take the lead on this one?
I did give you a lead in the beginning that whenever we were having this kind of disagreements or arguments on things, if I go by ratio, maybe it is 75% of the time, I think I was correct. Yeah.
Not just with your juniors, but also with your...
Yeah. Definitely. Like I said, when I started with hydrogen, I used to get a lot of advice from my mentors, अरे यार तुम मतलब shift to some other thing, you got to have some technology coming, otherwise it'll not have good impact on your career and all those kind of things.
Like there was a pressure for you to realize
and it was good. They were my well-wishers. I won't say that they had any bad intention to divert me or anything. They had very good intentions. They used to say, okay, this is your passion, fine, continue with it on a low profile, because this is not technology oriented and it will not give you the limelight, which normally is associated with the scientific career of a scientist. Aapne, at the end of the day, my husband himself used to ask me this question. At the end of the day, tell me, whatever you have done today, how is it of use to a common man? He used to ask me that. I am a public, I pay taxes, you tell me whatever you have done, how is it of use to a common man? तब तो मेरे पास जब मैं ये हाइड्रोजन वाला काम कर रही थी and all those things, I didn't have, I'll be honest, I didn't have an answer to him. And like I said, my well-wishers were also suggesting कि थोड़ा सा अलग-अलग area में सोचो where you can lead to good technology. But then I said I was very lucky that this problem came to me with green firecrackers, and I left with a very satisfying feeling that not only to common man, it could be of use to an industry, which was
and has worldwide application today.
Yeah, so like that. Then ये जो मेरे को क्वेश्चन का बम्बार्डमेंट होता था ना, कॉमन मैन का यूज क्या है, कॉमन मैन का यूज क्या है, लाइक यू वर आस्किंग हाउ द आइडियाज, हाउ द प्रॉब्लम्स कम टू योर माइंड. सो वन प्रॉब्लम विच आई थिंक इवन आकांक्षा विल एग्री विथ मी is related to menstrual waste management, which is a taboo. Okay, basically nobody enters into that because बहुत ऐसे fancy research नहीं है, it's not a very captivating kind of thing, and there's a lot of taboo associated with it. So I started with that work at least a decade back, and I'm very happy to share that we have, with my knowledge of course of materials तो मैं नहीं छोड़ूंगी, okay. So we have used a lot of functional materials, and we have developed eco-friendly sanitary napkins and things like that. And I have a couple of students who are working for their PhD. Again, this was a low-profile kind of thing, but it gives me a great sense of satisfaction that at least it would be of great use to a huge sector of users, which is common. मेरे husband अगर सुन रहे होंगे तो it addresses lot of issues. Then we started also handling waste. हमने डिजाइन किए हैं systems जो
incinerators and all of that.
Yeah, very eco-friendly. Everything is all about, see, we are coming from an environment institute. और मैं ये नहीं कह सकती कि कुछ available नहीं है. Incinerators available है market में. So whatever we do, we'll make it more environment friendly. So we have developed solar carbonizers which can be put into use instead of आप जब burn करते हो तो बहुत सारा CO2 and you are releasing all those things. So I convert the waste into carbon. The carbon goes into the soil, which is like a conditioner or a soil promoter. It promotes growth and all that. So these are things which you do.
And I think the sanitary napkins that you invented were also biodegradable.
Absolutely. Where did you read that? He's done his homework. He doesn't leave anything for me. Where did you read this? Yeah.
So they were biodegradable. And during COVID also was another big challenge that was given to you. You made face masks that were disinfectants.
ये वो जैसे कह रहे ना, necessity is the mother of invention.
Right.
भाई अब कोविड ही आ गया, किसने एंटिसिपेट किया? आप क्या कर सकते हो? सोचो आपको क्या आता है और आप क्या कर सकते हो. भाई हमको तो मटेरियल ही आता है, ठीक है, और हमको केमिस्ट्री आती है, तो हम केमिस्ट्री से क्या कर सकते हैं. तो फिर हमने बहुत सारा हाइपोक्लोराइड बनाना शुरू किया लैब में. एंड यू नो वी वर मेकिंग अराउंड 200 to 300 liters per batch, and we were supplying it to our own institute. We never bought it from outside, okay?
Right.
All the cleaning and everything using hypochlorite. That again is my hydrogen generation work, okay? My knowledge with respect to hydrogen generation. I applied over there. We started generating lot of hypochlorite, which was being used by our institute completely. We never bought any hypochlorite during that period. And then we were supplying it to the nearby offices as well. Mama Lorica office, whatever, whosoever was coming to us. So as far as that disinfection liquid is concerned, and then of course the mask.
And of course,
mask,
I think it was a different department, but of course the RT-PCR test.
Yeah. That was done by
that
my
was
colleague,
a big.
Yeah, Dr. Khairnar. That he's my colleague. He's done exceptionally good work as far as doing those RT-PCR tests.
The swab test.
Absolutely.
So, ma'am, let's talk about the collaboration with because I feel that you are a chemist in nature.
Mm-hmm.
So, was there a lot of collaboration with biologists and biology experts also?
Yes, the environment is a multidisciplinary area because chemistry का use है, application है, but the problems which are there is multidisciplinary kind, so we need lot of input. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I was working on biomimetic CO2 sequestration. Probably some of the publications which have come 2 decades back, they were the first of their kind in our country. So that couldn't have been done without a biologist or microbiologist or a biochemistry being involved. So we were a team of chemistry, biochemistry, chemical engineering, all coming together, applying our brains.
So ma'am, when you were saying that we work together, was it that there was a special task force created for this that used to work together?
Yes.
Or was it like 2 independent labs working together,
No.
sharing
It was a task force. I was leading that project. It was funded to us by DBT, that is Department of Biotechnology. So in that we had different institutions. Delhi University was involved. Then I think there was one more CSIR lab. I'll just come up with the name. Yeah, no, it was in Lucknow. Okay, and then this Delhi University was there. Then Jabalpur University was there. Then of course NIRI itself, we had 2 groups. One was the biochemistry and the biology group, and ours was the chemistry group. So we all came together and we worked and we found solution for sequestering CO2 by using enzymes as well as microorganisms, where we convert CO2 into calcite. This is why we call it sequestration as against carbon capture. Okay. So it was very nice and interesting, and that answers your questions of multidisciplinary approach to addressing issues.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's now jump a little ahead. Now I think we've discussed the experimentation part a fair bit. You did enjoy field work, right?
Of course. Yeah.
So you spent a fair bit of your time in Sivkasi.
Yeah.
And you used to go there for the knowledge transfer to the manufacturers. Can you share a little about that experience?
Yes. Like I said, the ban was lifted only after we filed the affidavit and all. So my first experience when I visited Sivkasi, to be very honest, I'm sure if they listen to the podcast, they'll also accept. It was not a very good experience. Sometimes we should also share the ups and downs which we have in our life, in the sense that they were very good chemists and chemical engineers.
In these private companies?
These manufacturers,
Right.
During my interaction, I realized with that. So obviously, देखिए वो लोग 100 years से, more than 60, 70 years of experience they were working. So when we went with the solution to them, obviously एक mindset तो होता है कि आप ऐसे क्या कर लिए, आपने ऐसा क्या कर लिया और आपको ऐसा क्या आता है कि आपने solution ढूंढ लिया. It started with that, to be very honest, okay? And जब आप जाके आप खड़े हो रहे हो तो, but then I really acknowledge, their support, and then their positive attitude, okay? They started in a very negative, they started like that. I still remember my first presentation. and then they had that attitude कि भाई आपको ऐसा क्या आता है और आप कैसे हमारा problem solve कर लोगे, that kind of thing. But now I think we have a very very good rapport with the industry, so that is how I relate my experience with Shivkasi. Now coming to field work, yes, it was the first of the kind experience which I've had, in the sense that we were developing these formulations and they were a bit different from what they were doing. So obviously it was required for us to give them lot of hands-on training. So you can understand, I was having at least more than 300 to 400 people sitting over there and observing, like
you are under the microscope.
Yes, under the microscope, as to what she's going to teach us, with that first term as a raised eyebrows. And then obviously at the end of the day, they were okay. So I think I was okay in giving them.
So what were some of the tools or techniques that you used to turn that pushback into acceptance?
They appreciated with the simple concept of using multifunctional materials which solved their problems but did not bring in a lot of change to their existing things.
Right.
So that really, I think, underscored the role of material, how it can be put into use, which never occurred to them. And they accepted it eventually, that the solution was so simple. And and I know I don't remember exactly who said it, that I would have shared. This could have come only to the mind of a scientist,
right,
because they were all technocrats sitting over there, They knew the formulations, they know how to sell it to the market. But when this ban came, this never occurred to them. Yeah, they were shaken, obviously, and this never occurred to them, that how to look into this problem and get out of this situation. Okay, so
did it take only one session for you to turn that negative into positive?
Yeah, I think the first presentation was very tough, to be honest. They were asking all kind of questions, and obviously I had to be prepared.
Did you know going in that it's going to be very difficult?
Yes, because we were anticipating that resistance will be there, because they were obviously very upset with whatever was happening, because it was hampering their job opportunities, hampering their lifestyle and everything. So it's understood. They'll have that kind of thing, and then we were pitched in. उनको भी लग रहा था कि भैया ये सर क्या ही कर लेगा, क्या सोल्यूशन ढूंढ के निकालेगा हमारे लिए. Then I discussed that this is how we can do. So they were skeptical whether it will work. But then when we went back with the results, we showed them that yes, you can do this. And you can visibly see the difference. There's a smoke, इसमें smoke दिख रहा है, इसमें नहीं दिख रहा है. So and then they have to accept it. And then, as I said, acceptance was more because it didn't bring major changes to their setup as such. So that was
there was just an initial confusion as to what is.
So I really enjoyed these field visits. I've been going to Shivkasi very often. I don't know. At some point of time, I was spending more time in Shivkasi than in Nagpur. Then I went to Rajasthan. That is also a very good hub over there.
For firecrackers.
Yeah, for the firecrackers work. So I was traveling extensively during that period. A lot of field work, and I enjoyed it because it was like a chemistry lab in the Shantiniketan. It was like a chemistry lab out in the open because look, obviously open mein zyada
under the tree,
under the trees, all those things. Yeah.
I think I can probably pick your brains for an hour or 2 hours more, and we'll still not have covered even a cent of your experience.
Not an issue.
But ma'am, one final question I wanted to ask you was, can you tell me what do you want to be remembered by?
That's a very tough question. Okay, because it's a conflict between heart and mind, to be honest. Okay, what I want to be remembered as, okay, I'll take this shot. I'll say कि I want to be remembered as a material scientist, chemist, by virtue of the fact that I can address two very important problems. One is the climate change issues with respect to solar hydrogen and carbon capture, and then green firecrackers, which not only has applications, civilian applications, but we are also venturing into defense applications now. Okay, so that is
ma'am, when you say defense applications, this is your extended work with the government agencies that you're supporting.
Yes, we
advising now.
Yeah, we are planning to go into that. जब आपने पूछा ना कि अगर मुझे चूज करना पड़ेगा amongst all the work, which work is more important to me, it's a difficult question because बोलते ना एक मदर के लिए ये बोलना कि ये ज़्यादा अच्छा है वो ज़्यादा वो रहता है थोड़ी partiality.
You have so much ownership over your work.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I feel like that ये सब projects मेरे बच्चे जैसे babies है, so mother के भी favorites रहते हैं, but वो mother कभी बताएगी नहीं, बच्चों को कभी नहीं बताएगी कि कौन सा favorite है.
One child may be little more popular.
ये तो रहता है, popular भी होगा, उसका अपना रहता है, but you can't admit. So I can't admit in this forum, which is more important.
Fair enough. Ma'am, thank you so much. Thank you so much for blessing me with your presence.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
I need to give a special shout out to Mrs. Meera Malviya. Meera Bua, she made this conversation possible. Ma'am, if there is absolutely any feedback that you have for me or any kind of, like if you could just talk to me about your experience with this show, please let me know.
Sure.
I'll be more than happy to rectify, course correct or whatever it is.
Sure. देखो अगर आप before we conclude, in continuation to your last question, अगर आप मेरे को बोलते कि सबसे अच्छा काम आपको कौन सा लगता है तो मुझे इमीडिएटली ये कहना चाहिए ग्रीन फायर क्रैकर्स बिकॉज इट गेव मी लॉट ऑफ रिकग्निशन कन्वर्टेड माय करियर आल्सो फ्रॉम ए साइंटिस्ट टू ए टेक्नोलॉजिस्ट और व्हाटएवर एंड sorry, I don't wish to bring this, but I would like to bring it to your notice that I was always also invited to President's House as a special invitee.
Of course,
yes. Because of this work. Then that's why I said I should immediately say green firecrackers, but
but you can't.
Yeah, but you can't. That's fair enough. So that will make all my students very happy who have worked very hard for the hydrogen project. Then it was at this stage. Otherwise, they'll get very upset. Madam,
you can't hurt your kids. Ma'am, thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this, ma'am.
It's my pleasure. Absolutely.
If you learned something new from this episode of the Horsemouth podcast, do rate and review us on Spotify, Instagram, X, or wherever people engage with you the most.